Guten Tag means good day in German. We got two letters in one, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to read the second one. Hegra, Saudi Arabia. Saluma alaikum. I wrapped my scarf. Okay, yeah, this is the right way. I wrapped my scarf tighter around my face to block out the sand as it swirled all around me. I was caught in a sandstorm. I huddled closer to my camel, who seemed unbothered, as though it were just another Tuesday for him. Sandstorms are common here in the vast Arabian desert, but little did I know this was just the beginning of the unforgettable adventure ahead. This month I found myself in a part of the world that's both hidden from visitors and little known to most, the lost city of Hegra in Saudi Arabia. Let me tell you about it. My journey began in Taima, where I paid a few rials to hire a camel. In this part of the world, camels are known as the ships of the desert because they are the most reliable and traditional way to travel across this vast and sandy land. They can travel for hundreds of miles with very little food or water and are said to have a natural sense of direction. Unfortunately, my camel seemed to lack this particular skill. Around 50 miles into our desert trek, where he was supposed to be leading me to the Red Sea, my camel veered right, and trusting him, I went along without a single suspicion. It wasn't until the next day that I realized something was wrong. Instead of the sea on the horizon, I saw only more desert and towering, strange rock formations. Perhaps it was my weary eyes, but I could have sworn one of them looked exactly like a giant elephant. But there was no doubt I was lost. But I wasn't frightened, for if there's one thing I've learned on all of my journeys, it's that the best adventures begin with that very word, lost. As I set up camp that evening and nibbled on a few dates and dried meat, this truth was only reaffirmed when I looked up to see a million of stars twinkling above. Nowhere else in the world do stars shine brighter than here. Another day of trekking brought me into the Sharan Nature Reserve at last, to a place called Hegra, as I later learned. All around me were magnificent building faces carved into the enormous red rocks. Each one looked like a gateway to a palace with doors, leading to who knows where, tunnels, secret rooms. There were hundreds of them. I discovered that most of these were actually tombs, sort of like the pyramids, but in a different style. Hegra is considered a lost city, built thousands of years ago by the Nabateans. Above the doors of many tombs, I noticed carved eagles, which I later learned were thought to be the guardians of the dead. As my camel and I sauntered through the ancient ruins, I gazed around in awe. Suddenly, the sound of hoofbeats filled the air. Men in flowing robes galloped towards me on Arabian horses. At first I felt a flicker of fear, but I was soon at ease when they smiled and introduced themselves as the Bedouin guides, the protectors of Hegra. The Bedouins are nomadic and are considered by many the original people of the desert. They welcomed me back into their camp for the evening, where I experienced true desert life under the stars. They treated me to a traditional Bedouin tea ceremony, and later I sat by the fire listening to a storyteller spin tales in a language unknown to me, but beautiful nonetheless. Then came the music and the dancing. Men and women twirled around the fire, chanting songs and beating drums, filling the night air with joy and tradition. The next morning, after a restful sleep under those majestic stars, I noticed that one of the men had a few birds at his camp. There was a falcon, a small pigeon, and even a golden eagle. It looked just like the carving I had seen. He explained how his ancestors had used birds for centuries to help procure food in the desert. Curious, I asked about the small one kept in a wooden cage and learned it was none other than a carrier pigeon, used to deliver messages, just like in ancient times. It was time to say farewell and attempt to find my way back to civilization. I set out across the sands with a pack full of dates and several canteens of water, just in case my camel decided to lose his sense of direction again. Midway through the journey, I began to worry that I wasn't heading to the right way. Everything looked the same. Suddenly, I felt a light thud on my shoulder and turned to see a little pigeon perched there, a note tied to its leg. I gently unraveled it and smiled to see a drawing of the setting sun with an arrow pointing to it. Follow the sun. My friends back at Hagra must have known I'd need help. Back in the city of Alula, I gathered my things and prepared, at last, to head towards the sea. But this time, perhaps by train, and only after bidding farewell to my dromedary friend. As I left the camel yard, I turned and tipped my hat to him, and I could have sworn he winked at me. Perhaps he knew all along exactly what he was doing, simply having an adventure. Until my next letter, Isabel. Lots of love. I miss my baby so much. Yeah, I just end it here. I can't pronounce names of places very well. I think most people are aware of that by now. Auf Wiedersehen.